Hello everyone, Reza here. We are going to continue with our Marvelous Designer for Beginner series. Now let's create a men's winter scarf in this video. Again, we are going to use this case study as an excuse to learn more about tools in Marvelous Designer that we haven't had a chance to cover. And hopefully from the next video, we are going to sort of dive into more complex objects. But let's get this one out of the way. It's actually fairly straightforward, but I'm about to introduce a very important tool in Marvelous Designer that we are going to use a lot within our pipeline. So one big change right off the bat is I'm not going to import the model. I'm going to add it as an avatar. There's not much difference, but going from file to import to OBJ or FBX feels very natural, and that's how I started with this, because for many of you, that's how you bring a mesh into an application. In Marvelous Designer, on the other hand, it's preferred to go with add and then avatar. I have the male base mesh. Again, I'll make that base mesh available to you guys. As discussed in the previous videos, I'm going to set that to 1000% millimeter, and it brings it in the right scale into my scene. So let's see how we can start with the men's scarf. Obviously, the first place to go to is just a rectangle. I'm going to be generous with the width and the height. And remember, these are the things that you can change in the future. But for now, I'm just going to block out something as usual. Next, I'm going to go to add a fabric, call this scarf, and give this a color. I'm going to I'm going to pick a blue color, let's say, drag and drop into my pattern, colored. I'm going to enable viewport quality as well. With that, I am going to cut it in half, basically using an internal polygon. So I'm going to go into an internal polygon, and the good thing about internal polygon is if you want to find a half, you don't need to hold control or shift anything. You just hover your mouse, get closer to the middle, and your cursor will snap. So click. You can hold down shift now to draw a straight line, click and press enter, and there you have your internal pattern done. Now you may say, Reza, why are you doing this? Just watch as many videos as you can on the internet to see what type of knot you want to get for your scarf. But the one that I looked at, it basically folds it in half in length and folds it in half in width and then wraps it around the neck. That's why I'm doing this. So we discussed this method in our pillow tutorial, where I used actually fold arrangement to have that fold. I'm just going to go to the other side and fold it from here. Try not to have any intersection, and for good measures, it's a good idea to just segment so both sides and seal both sides. Now before I go to the next chapter, I am going to select the fabric, and I am going to change the preset to something more rigid, something like wool, because if you keep it to something loose like silk and try to move it and wrap it around objects, it will self-collide, and at times your fabric will explode. So it's always a good idea to have that preset done. Another change I would like to make with my fabric selected is to lower the particle distance, which is going to be quite helpful. So I'm going to lower this to something like 15, and I am going to increase the thickness for collision and for rendering to something like 3. Now that allows me to maneuver more comfortably. I'm not going to say it's going to be smooth sailing, no, but it makes the job a lot easier to just move around the avatar. Now, you know what I'm saying in a second. Here comes the moment where I'm about to introduce a very important and very common and popular tool inside Marvelous Designer, and that is a pin. Now, pins are fantastic to freeze just a portion of your garment. So we already know how to select the entire garment and freeze it. You just right click on it and go freeze. But what if you just want to freeze this corner and let the rest simulate? That's where you use pin tool. To use the pin tool, you have two options. One is to use these drop-down menus. The other one is to use main menus. For main menus, I believe it's under 3D garment. And yep, there we have it. Pin, box, pin, lasso. And basically that allows you to select vertices as a marquee select, like a box, or lasso selected. Basically, you draw and select a portion. Fairly similar, and we already know what box and lasso are. Another way of doing this is to actually go to the third menu from the left, and I can tear off the menu so it's easier to see. And then right underneath the selection box and selection lasso, you have pin box and pin lasso. Very useful. So let's click on, let's say, pin box, and you can use it either in 3D or 2D mode. And as soon as you click on it, your mesh turns sort of light pink, and you can actually see the geometry or the structure of your mesh or your wireframe of it in both views. Now, anywhere you select will freeze in space after you hit simulate. So what I'm trying to do here is to first pin the top and then simulate, so the scarf drops, and then pin the bottom and move it up to fold it in length. That's what I'm basically trying to do. So let's get to work. And again, we may fail on the first attempt. Obviously, for things like this, you always need to do a bit of trial and error and rinse and repeat, so to speak, to get the best result. But let's see if we can get it in the first take. And if that's the case, then we're extremely lucky. I'm just going to drag. I'm using the pin box. I'm just going to select the top vertices. And you can see this is now selected. If I simulate, you can see the top stays and the cloth drops a little, but definitely now it's working. If I select the pinned area, press W, you can see I can actually move it up in space and move it around. If I want, I can kind of move it here, I can move it here, and do whatever I want with it. Now, when I lower the particle distance, it actually slows down your scene. If I were to hypothetically select this guy here, well, it's not hypothetical anymore because I'm about to do it, and give this a 20 and resimulate, you can see I have a much comfortable time moving this around. It's almost now Riem time. I might as well actually do it because it makes it a lot easier for me to move the fabric around. But that's basically it. Now you can see how this fold is helping us and the stitch to kind of preserve the whole volume together. Let's pin the bottom as well. I'm going to go to pin, box, probably zoom in. You can do it in 3D as well, in 3D window. I tend to do it in 2D window and just select the bottom row. The reason I lifted the garment, because if the garment is in a really weird position and you start pinning and you start moving, it again may self-collide and explode. So just make your job easier by moving it or lifting it up and give it some room to breathe. Now I'm going to very gently move this garment up. You can at any point of time use the rotate tool. I am going to rotate it a little bit, move it up ever so slightly. Again, the key is to be patient. If you try to impress people by going too fast, things will fall apart. And you can select both of them. Pressing W, move this around and gradually but surely move this down. So just to show you, this end, the whole idea is this end will go into here and out through this hole right here. So that's what I'm trying to do. Let's see if we can achieve that. It's quite a challenge actually. So I'm going to move this back. Now, while you have this here, to make your job easier, you can actually lasso pin some of these areas. Let's say lasso pin this bit, right? And then go to move tool and move it out ever so slightly. And then go in here. It's all about planning. You need to make sure that you know what you're doing. Select here, select, press W, and then push this one back a little bit. I'm trying to keep this area wide open, and you can see I'm selecting these two areas here. At any point of time, if you would like to remove the pin, you hold down Control and drag on it in your 2D pattern window, or you hold down Control Shift and you drag to add to your selected pins. So just remember those two shortcuts. All right, we are going to continue with our mission here. So going into select move, select the first one, shift select the second one, press the W again, and we are going to continue. Now the good thing about this is I don't need to worry about this hole. It will stay open. And it's one of those moments where I probably need to rotate the fabric or both of them. And then we are going to continue. Feel free to kind of open some of these areas. You can actually get them slightly closer to each other. Select both of them, W, and we are going to continue. Select both of them, W. We are getting closer. We are getting closer. Let's see if we can manage to do that. Once it's in and outside the hole, then probably you can just remove all the pins and let this simulate. Moving it down and rotate. It's probably too far away. Going to select these two guys. W. All right, one is in. Let's see if we can kind of squeeze in the other one. Yay! Both of them are in. That is a great news. So I'm just going to form this just ever so slightly. And probably it's a good time to sort of remove some of these pins. And you go to, for example, lasso. And that's how you release this pin. There's another one somewhere here. Now with that, I am going to push it out, and with both of them selected, just move them down. I can go to this and start just adding a little bit of design here. Can probably unpin this portion as well, and with that part unpinned, I can probably unpin the whole thing as well. By the way, if you find it difficult, you can just go right click on one of the pins and just say delete all pins, and we get that sorted. Now it's all a matter of pulling to make sure that we are getting the ideal design that we want. And I can see it's a little bit thick for my taste, so I am going to cancel the simulation and probably get rid of this middle line right here. Go to edit pattern. Let's tweak the length and the width of our scarf to just add a little bit of more personality into this. I'm going to select this point. I'm going to select this point, and I'm just going to use my arrow key to make this. And the reason I'm doing this with caution is because, again, you do not want your scarf to explode, and just have patience. Now, how thin or how thick is totally up to you. I'm going to select that and just move it up ever so slightly as well. Probably was a bit too much. Something like that. And just let it sim. Something like that. I am going to push that in. Again, I noticed that it's still just a tad thick. So I'm going to cancel, but you can see that I am improving on this, gradually but surely. Without making major improvement, again, I'm going to do that. Maybe this bit needs a little bit of improvement, and same as this bit, same as this bit. So it's kind of getting there. You can see that the design is coming together really nicely. In my opinion, at the end of the day, really, it comes down to how you plan for it. The better you plan for it, the easier it gets. It's actually probably very close to what I want, to be honest with you. I'm not going to get too picky about it, but I'm just going to just have a look, make sure there's no geo penetration anywhere. Just pull some of these small bits and pieces just to get a slightly better result. And just imagine we are doing this with the particle distance of 20, which is pretty high. And simulate again, and you can see the fabric looks much nicer now. So there's a slightly less chance of running into complications or seeing some crazy stuff. So that actually looks pretty good to me. I can even go simulate and move this one down a little just to loosen these areas around the neck, around this area, around this area. And that really should do the trick for me. I quite like that. So then after this point, it's going to be your call. Obviously, I can go to internal lines and say, all right, I'm just going to select this guy, and I am going to select this guy. I am going to right click, offset as internal line, probably 15, 20, 30, maybe 50. Yeah, 50 will do. 50 is good. Then you can even select these guys and say, all right, offset as internal line and go reverse 25, something like that, and just add design, honestly, to what you want to do. Again, these are the things that we have talked in the past. For example, this guy, you can just right click and go cut and sew, and this is absolutely one of my favorite tools, and you get a little bit of sort of design in here. I can go do the same thing here, right click and cut and sew, and you get that sort of design there as well. You can go into the other one and just change the fold angle to 360, fold the strength to something like 20, and again improve on your design. So I'm probably going to not to see the internal lines in here. So again, all sorts of stuff you can do to create your scarf. You can have more than one tie. You can just try different types of ties just to get a much neater result. You can go in there, change the look of what you already have. I can probably go in there and pick a different color probably. Yeah, that looks much warmer for winter time, looks much nicer. And that's really it. So you can see there's not much really to it. It's fairly straightforward, but in no time at all, we got really nice looking scarf. And by all means, go and experiment with different designs, different looks, and do share with me your result. I would love to see what type of design you guys are going to come up with. There are so many fancy designs out there. I really don't know the name of them, but of course, always research, always have a reference, and I'm sure you'll have tons of fun. All right, you can always support this channel via my Patreon page. You can follow me on Twitter. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next video, see you guys later.